Welcome to the Explainer. So today we're looking at something you probably do every single day without giving it a second thought. I mean, think about your morning routine, right? You walk into a busy cafe, smell the roasted beans, order your drink, and when the barista turns that little screen around, you don't even blink. You grab your card or your phone, you tap it on the reader, hear that satisfying little beep, and you walk right out. It feels entirely seamless. Honestly, it feels almost like magic, doesn't it? We become so incredibly accustomed to it that we totally forget how crazy it is that it actually works. But today, we're going to pull back the curtain and make the invisible mechanics of that tap completely visible. Which brings us to the big question. What really happens when you tap your card? Behind that deceptively simple, everyday action is, well, it's a staggering amount of global complexity. We're talking about a massive, highly orchestrated machinery of data, capital, and security that has to work perfectly, literally flawlessly, every single time you make a purchase.
Okay, let's dive into this. 2 seconds. That's it. Just 1, 2. That is literally all it takes for a massive global data relay race to complete. While you're standing there, maybe feeling that tiny second of anxiety, hoping the payment actually goes through so you can grab your coffee, your payment data is literally traveling around the entire world. It's bouncing between global financial institutions, crossing oceans of fiber optic cables, and coming right back to the palm of your hand before you've even had time to blink.
Section 1. The under 2-second journey, authorization. Now, let's look at the very first half of this relay race. I want you to imagine a hyper-fast, neon-lit digital data highway that lights up the exact millisecond your card touches that retail terminal. Picture this dynamic, glowing digital pulse traveling swiftly across the map. Step 1. You, the cardholder, tap the terminal. Step 2. The merchant's point-of-sale system captures that data and shoots it right over to the acquirer, which is really just the industry word for the merchant's bank. Steps 3 and 4. The acquirer routes this request onto a global data highway, the card network, so think Visa or Mastercard, which bridges the gap across the world. And finally, step 5, the issuer, which is your personal bank, receives it deep in their secure vault. Once they verify it, boom, that glowing pulse shoots all the way back through the exact same path with an approved stamp. But wait, your bank doesn't just blindly say yes, right? In that tiny fraction of a second, they run through a massive, incredibly rapid checklist. Do you have available balance or credit? Is the physical card still valid? Does the transaction pass their complex AI-driven fraud and risk rules? Is the PIN or CVV correct? And, absolutely crucially, they verify the EMV cryptogram. You can think of the EMV cryptogram as this dynamic digital handshake that can never, ever be faked or copied. It's a unique, one-time security code generated by your card's smart chip for that specific purchase alone. All of these intense security checks happen instantly at the bank vault, which then shoots back that approval. Now, what's really interesting about this slide is that it highlights a massive misconception we need to clear up right now. When the machine says payment approved, it does absolutely not mean the merchant has actually received your money. Authorization is simply permission to pay. Your bank is just placing those funds on hold. They're essentially just setting the money aside. Settlement, on the other hand, is when the actual money moves and the merchant finally gets paid. So the instant permission of authorization is totally different from the delayed reality of settlement. Section 2, behind the scenes, clearing and settlement. So let's transition from the bright, fast-paced daytime lights of the retail store to what happens after you've gone home. It's time to slow things down a bit. Visualize a midnight batch processing theme. All of those individual approved transactions from the day, they don't actually move real money one by one. I mean, if banks wired $3 every single time someone bought a coffee, the entire system would just collapse. That would be incredibly inefficient. Instead, they aggregate into these massive digital blocks. Overnight, the card networks step in to act as central clearinghouses. They calculate the net amount each bank owes or should receive. Finally, these massive netted amounts are settled through the central bank's interbank systems, transferring as large blocks of funds directly into the merchant's account while you sleep. But of course, maintaining this incredible global infrastructure isn't exactly free. Nobody is running global fiber optic networks and midnight clearinghouses out of the goodness of their hearts, right? So who exactly gets a slice of your purchase? Every single time you pay, the merchant pays a fee called the merchant discount rate to facilitate this whole ecosystem. Let's take a look at how the various gatekeepers get paid out of that rate. And it's brilliantly illustrated here how the economics of a standard swipe actually work. Let's break it down with a really concrete example. Say you make a $100 purchase, and the merchant pays a $2 fee for it. The payment service provider takes a tiny, tiny sliver of that. The card network takes about 11 to 15 cents for providing that massive global routing infrastructure we just talked about. The acquire bank, they take about 25 cents.
But the issuer bank, your bank, takes the massive lion's share, roughly $1.75. It's kind of surprising, but why do they get so much? Well, because the issuer absorbs the primary financial risk of fraud or non-payment. Plus, this interchange fee is exactly what funds those incredibly lucrative credit card rewards and air miles you love to collect.
Section 3. The Security Shield Compliance. Now, frankly, none of this money movement would matter at all if the system wasn't totally ironclad. So let's introduce the invisible armor protecting this entire ecosystem, the security shield that keeps consumer data and capital perfectly safe at every single node. Enter PCI DSS, or the Payment Card Industry Data Security Standard. This is the foundational rulebook. It strictly mandates end-to-end encryption, network firewalls, and intense access controls on any system storing primary account numbers, which is just the industry term for that long 16-digit number on the front of your plastic card. So the crucial point is that PCI DSS acts as the foundational digital padlock, literally locking down sensitive card data everywhere it travels, ensuring absolutely no one ever stores your sensitive CVV or PIN after authorization.
We can actually systematically break down the 3 core pillars of security as a bit of a progression here. First, you have the broad network foundation, PCI DSS, which focuses on data security with those heavy digital padlocks and encryption. Then we move down to the individual user level with 3D Secure, or 3DS, which is laser-focused on fraud prevention. Think of 3DS as that biometric facial scan or the one-time passcode prompt that suddenly pops up on your phone during an online purchase to prove it's really actually you. Finally, zooming all the way out to global crime prevention, we have AML and KYC, anti-money laundering and know your customer, which act as the identity verification monitoring to stop major financial crimes right in their tracks.
And to make things even safer, we have this amazing thing called network tokenization. Imagine your raw 16-digit credit card number completely morphing into a dynamic, encrypted digital token. Instead of your real card number traveling across the network and just sitting vulnerably in random merchant databases, a unique token takes its place. It flows across the networks, dramatically lowering the exposure of your sensitive data to hackers. Because even if a breach happens, the stolen token is completely useless to them. It's basically just digital gibberish without the right encryption key.
Section 4. The takeaway. Why this matters. Every single day, whether you are buying a simple sandwich or an expensive plane ticket, this vast, invisible machinery is working seamlessly to protect your money. It is a highly orchestrated dance of technology, economics, and security that happens so incredibly fast you don't even notice it. Let's move to and see how this builds into the very near future. Where does this highly orchestrated dance of technology go from here? Well, the answer is 2030. Mastercard is actually planning to phase out traditional 16-digit card numbers entirely by the year 2030 in favor of network tokenization and biometrics. It's a fascinating fact for sure, but physical plastic cards as we know them, with those embossed numbers we are also used to, are rapidly becoming obsolete.
So I want to leave you with this provocative question as we wrap up. What does the future of money look like when the physical card completely disappears? I mean, when your face or your fingerprint entirely replaces the plastic in your wallet. The invisible mechanics we explore today are really just the beginning of a truly digital financial world. Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer, and definitely keep your eyes open the next time you tap to pay.